Caner Universe, it's Caner Tip Tuesday, and today, the Sobrevivencia series. What is the best cane fighting stance as per Sobrevivencia? But before we do that, a warm welcome to all. And if you're here for the first time, you like the content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button with the little bell icon so that you don't miss any future content. You have 2 free resources that you should avail yourself of, and the first one is the no-cost cane clarity call. In less than 24 hours, we will be on a call with you, learning what it is that is important to you and give you an actual plan and a blueprint to make it happen. No cost, no obligation. Just text the letters on the screen to the phone number, and then you have a private a Facebook group called Cane Flow. Go ahead and request entry. Look at the description, and they'll let you write in. So, as per Sobrevivencia, this is in response to a question that we get as to what is the best stance. What's the prescription there for Sobrevivencia? So I'm going to give you that, and then I'm going to give you some insights to ACSD, because there are some certain parallels, some very definite parallels there. But in a nutshell, it's the stance that allows you to defend, to respond, but at the same time says, I'm not going to do any of that. Basically, it flies under the radar, like with most things with this art. So whether you have the cane, you don't have the cane, you don't want to give the impression that you're about to fight. So the series is, you guys look for cane fighting. We don't talk about cane fighting. And so let's take a look at what that means. By the way, in SB, for those of you that are unaware, it's a tool-based art. Okay, and it comes from having to defend. I'm not going to get into the history of it now, but just know that it is, and in particular, impact tools. But the one thing that you will not find is this right here, or you're not going to find anything that says I'm about to spring into action. But by the same token, there have to be certain components also that are protecting you or putting you. The first one is distance, and I think you know that. If you dial back to last week, it's creating this distance where the opponent is moving towards you. What about when you're stationary? Let's take a look at that. And we're drawing on that a concept of bringing the target towards you, bringing that target towards you. Meaning that if I'm here, it looks like, and it appears, if I'm standing here with you, it appears like my head is wide open, for instance. And there's a psychology behind that. Your opponent sees it, says it's wide open. I'm going to take a shot there. But if you look at it also, it's 1 foot in front of the other, and that shoulder is away, and it's almost like bladed. You don't see it. It's what we call in ACSD a half body. And it's also automatically off the line here at a distance. Look at the distance. I know that if she goes to move from there, that's not a very, I can respond to these. Doesn't matter whether she's coming high, whether she's coming here to the side, she's coming to the other side. I can respond. I'm at a distance that I can respond even though I'm down here. Right? It tends to give the impression that all this is wide open. So you're luring the attack in. Now that requires skill, requires training, but that's why we're here. Right? That's very different than freezing up, not moving, and then this is coming and you're square to it. The same concept happens with the empty hand. So if I'm dealing here, and no tool now, there has to be a distance factor here, right? So from here I'm pretty good, but now she starts inching it right. Same thing, I can still, even if my guard is not up and I'm at a distance, it appears like this is open here when I move, but with the training I can get there. In other words, it's luring you in to what I want to do, whether it's to the outside of the guard, it's to the inside of the guard, moving in. I can move from here. What happens when you have that cane? You can't create the distance and the concept of coming from here to here. Now, it's 1 foot slightly, let's tilt that down a little bit so you can see what it is. Whether you have the cane or you don't have the cane, it's 1 foot slightly in front of the other, pretty much, but it's not an exaggerated, we don't have exaggerated stances, we don't have anything like that. 1 foot slightly in front of the other, pretty much like you might be when you're standing reading a book or brushing your teeth. And your hands, once that gap starts closing, if I can't get out of the way, it's gonna have to come up here. And the reason for that, you've seen me demonstrate this before, and I'll do Vanessa. You guys can try this and have some fun with this. But she's turning over here, and I say, keep your hands down, and I'm going to tap you right here. I'm telling her what's going to happen, and all she has to do is just slap. Look, she's prepped and ready. All she has to do is just slap my hand away. But down there, it's not going to happen. So she modifies that just slightly. And it's here like I'm talking to you with empty hands, say, hey man, you're right, you know, but look at what's happening. Right now I move here, oh, that's tough. And she's gonna catch me there all day. Same thing happens with the cane. This does not imply a strike. This implies readiness and to not do, if I can't move, create more distance, you better believe it's coming up here. Because now anything that, I'm already there. And by the way, with training, that quote-unquote deflection is my strike. I'm not going to get into that because that warrants its own. But when I'm moving in here, that is a strike on the wrist, right? Think of that. And it's also coming in to go ahead and strike it. So in one move, if you know what you're doing, you can gobble up that space and just take control of that center line. Right? That's a concept. Some of you are familiar with that from other arts that you've studied. And so it happens here. That's going from here to here. It's not, don't mistake that for, I'm walking around with my cane like that. Only two ways. ACSD tells you two ways to hang around with that cane. You're either in a standard grip where the horn is pointing towards you and the tip is always touching the floor, or reverse, right? This is great. We love it, but we're not going to be walking around from here. Love the fact that you move from here to here. We have it in certain forms, certain exercises. This here. The same thing with the hands. Listen, it's here. So that if I do have to move, then I'm already in a position, right, that I can actually do something about it regardless. My hands are up and I can start moving in. So the answer to the question is the stance is going to be dictated by the circumstances, what the actual scenario is, and the distance factor. But whether it be SV, whether it be ACSD, the stances should be such that they communicate that you want to water down the situation, that you don't intend to spring into action, that you don't want to do that. SV takes it to another level, right? If you couldn't get out, if you couldn't do whatever it is that you're going to do, now, yep. This certainly bringing somebody in, luring them in, because in SV, the responses are essentially defensive. You're luring somebody in. You're basically giving in to get your way, if that makes sense. Okay. Speaking of Sobrevivencia, we're starting a Facebook group there. So as soon as that's ready for you, the doors will be open. If you have, for those of you that this is something that have been requesting now for a while, and we'll go ahead and you'll see it if you're in, particularly if you're in the Cane Flow group, you'll get an invite to that. You'll see it as soon as it's ready, and we can keep the conversation going there. Thank you for your kind feedback always. Glad you're enjoying these, and it's bringing insight to this little known art that now finally Maestro Ruiz has agreed to open it and share it with the world. I'm Joe Robaina for American Cane Self-Defense and Sobrevivencia. Thanks for watching. Keep caning. Stay safe.